Morgan Freeman, the WW2 dreamer who learned to fly without ever leaving the ground in a world where the sky seemed to belong to the privileged few. How does a dreamer take flight when the ground beneath their feet feels so heavy? As the distant rumble of war echoed through the bustling streets of 1940 Chicago, the air was thick with both possibility and tension. The war had cast shadows over dreams, yet for some, the horizon remained a beacon of hope. Amid the clattering of tools and the hearty laughter of men hard at work, Morgan Freeman, a 25-year-old mechanic, was a man caught between two worlds. He stood in his small garage, grease-stained hands resting on the hood of a battered Ford, his eyes gazing far beyond the confines of metal and oil. The scent of gasoline and the warmth of the sun filtering through the grimy windows could not dim the fire in his heart, a fire that burned for the skies. Every whir of an engine and the pulse of the city seemed to whisper to him of freedom and flight, but reality had him firmly grounded. Morgan was tall and lean, with an athletic build that hinted at the energy that lay dormant within him. His dark skin glistened in the sunlight, which poured into the garage, illuminating his deep-set eyes that sparkled with dreams. Yet, every time he turned his gaze skyward, the clouds above felt like a barrier he could not breach. The roaring engines of planes flying overhead served as constant reminders of his unfulfilled aspirations. His childhood friend, Evelyn Carter, often visited him during her breaks from her job at the local library. Evelyn was a fierce advocate for equality, her spirit unyielding, and her passion for justice contagious. She had always believed in Morgan, urging him to pursue his dreams despite the societal obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Today, she arrived with a determined look in her eyes, her short, curly hair bouncing with each step. "Morgan, you need to apply to flight school," Evelyn exclaimed, her voice filled with conviction. "You have the skills, the talent. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Morgan sighed, wiping his hands on a rag, feeling the weight of her words. "Evelyn, you know I can't," he replied, his voice tinged with frustration. "I've seen the way they look at us. They won't let someone like me in." Evelyn's expression hardened. "You can't let their prejudice define you. You deserve to fly just as much as anyone else. You have to try." But deep down, Morgan felt the sting of rejection that had already scarred his dreams. He had gathered the courage to apply to flight school, only to receive a letter that shattered his hopes. "Due to current policies, we cannot accept your application." He had been met with the cold reality of racial discrimination, a harsh reminder that even in a country fighting for freedom overseas, his liberty was still confined. The noise of the garage faded into the background as he recalled the moment he had opened the letter. The disappointment weighed heavily on him, crushing his spirit. He felt trapped, like a bird with clipped wings, yearning for the freedom of the sky yet tethered to the ground by an invisible chain. Evelyn reached out, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Morgan. Remember what Hank taught us. There's more than one way to learn about flying. You can still be a pilot in your own way." Henry Hank Thompson had been a mentor to Morgan, a retired pilot who had shared stories of his adventures in the cockpit. His tales of soaring through the clouds had ignited Morgan's passion, and the old man had always encouraged him to find ways to stay connected to aviation. Hank believed that knowledge was power and that with enough determination, anyone could achieve their dreams. Morgan nodded slowly, the fire within him flickering as he considered her words. "You're right," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "Maybe I can find a way to learn without actually flying. I could read, study, and watch the pilots at the airfield. I won't give up on this dream." Evelyn's eyes sparkled with pride. "That's the spirit. I'll help you. We can organize community events to raise awareness about the barriers people like us face in pursuing our dreams. Together, we can change the narrative." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the city, Morgan felt a newfound sense of determination. The world outside his garage was full of challenges, but he knew that he had allies like Evelyn and Hank who would stand by him. Their unwavering support ignited a flame within him, a passion that refused to be extinguished by the harsh realities of the time. But as he stood there, gazing out at the vibrant sunset, he couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. The war raged on, and with it came the constant reminders that his life was dictated by societal norms and prejudices. He felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he also felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps he could learn to fly without ever leaving the ground, not just for himself, but for all those who shared the same dream yet faced insurmountable odds. With his heart pounding, Morgan realized that while the path ahead was fraught with challenges, he was ready to embrace the journey that lay before him, determined to break the chains that held him back and soar into the realm of possibilities. In the days that followed his rejection from flight school, Morgan found himself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, each one more turbulent than the last. The garage, once a sanctuary filled with the familiar sense of motor oil and iron, now felt like a cage. He could hear the echoes of his peers, their laughter ringing in his ears, taunting him for his dreams. "Stay in your lane, Morgan," they would jest, their voices dripping with condescension. Each word was like a weight, anchoring him further to the ground he longed to escape. But the fire within him refused to extinguish. In the quiet moments, when the hustle of the garage faded into the background, Morgan found solace in the pages of aviation books. He surrounded himself with manuals on aerodynamics and biographies of legendary pilots, immersing himself in tales of daring flights and boundless skies. The more he read, the more his dreams took shape in his mind. He pictured himself in the cockpit, hands on the controls, soaring among the clouds like the great aviators he idolized. Yet, the world outside was not so kind. The ongoing war effort had created an economic strain that weighed heavily on the community. Gasoline was rationed, and parts for repairs were becoming increasingly scarce. Morgan struggled to make ends meet, often working extra hours at the garage just to pay his rent. Each paycheck felt like a reminder of his limitations, a stark contrast to the freedom he craved. He had to balance his yearning for the skies with the harsh realities of life on the ground. Evelyn Carter was a bright light in Morgan's life. She had been his confidant since childhood, always encouraging him to chase after his dreams. With her fierce advocacy for equality, she organized community events aimed at empowering young men and women to pursue their aspirations, regardless of the societal barriers they faced. One afternoon, as Morgan sat on a bench outside the garage, engrossed in a book about the mechanics of flight, Evelyn approached him, a determined look in her eyes. "Morgan," she began, her voice steady. "I'm planning an event next week at the community center. It's about breaking down barriers in education and training, especially in fields like aviation. I want you to be a part of it." He looked up from his book, a mix of hope and skepticism swirling within him. "What can I do? I'm just a mechanic with a broken dream." Evelyn shook her head, her brow furrowing. "You're more than that. You have knowledge and passion. Share your story. Show others what it means to pursue a dream, no matter the obstacles." Morgan hesitated, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He could still hear the jeers from his colleagues, their ridicule ringing in his ears. "What if they laugh at me? What if I fail?" "Failure is a part of the journey," she replied firmly. "What matters is that you try. You might inspire someone else to chase their dreams too." The idea lingered in his mind, planting the seeds of determination. Morgan could see the potential for change, not just for himself but for others who shared his struggles. That evening, he made a decision. He would participate in Evelyn's event, not just as a mechanic but as a dreamer willing to fight for the skies. As the days passed, Morgan spent every spare moment preparing. He reached out to Hank, his mentor, who had flown during the war and had stories that could inspire the community. Hank agreed to join him, sharing tales of camaraderie and resilience that had defined his flying career. Together, they would highlight the importance of pursuing one's dreams despite the odds stacked against them. But the mockery from his peers didn't cease. As word spread about the upcoming event, Morgan endured endless teasing. "What makes you think you can inspire anyone?" one of his co-workers sneered. "You're just a grease monkey." Each jab cut deeper than the last, and doubts crept in like a fog, clouding his resolve. He often questioned if he was foolish to believe he could make a difference. But Evelyn's unwavering support and Hank's encouragement kept the flicker of hope alive. On the day of the event, the community center buzzed with energy. Morgan stood at the back, his heart pounding as he watched the attendees filter in. He could feel the weight of their expectations, and fear gripped him like a vice. When Evelyn took the stage and introduced him, his stomach churned. "Please welcome Morgan Freeman, a man who embodies the spirit of perseverance," she announced, her voice ringing with conviction. As Morgan stepped forward, he took a deep breath, searching for the right words. He shared his journey, the struggles he faced, and the rejection that nearly crushed his dreams. He spoke of the joy of reading about aviation and the thrill of imagining himself in the sky. The room was silent, his vulnerability resonating with the audience. He noticed a few heads nodding, some eyes glistening with understanding. For a moment, he felt unshackled from the burdens of doubt and ridicule. "I may not have wings yet," he concluded, "but I believe that the sky is not a limit, it's a destination. And I will keep striving to reach it." Applause erupted in the room, a wave of support that enveloped him like a warm embrace. In that moment, Morgan realized the power of sharing his story. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was lighting a path for others who felt confined by society's limitations. As the event wrapped up, Morgan felt lighter, his spirit buoyed by the connections he'd made. After speaking, he was approached by young men and women who shared their dreams, their aspirations glimmering with a newfound hope. Yet, deep down, the scars of his rejection lingered. He knew that while this event had been a step forward, the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. The shadows of societal pressure and economic hardship still loomed over him, and he would need to confront them head-on. As he left the community center that evening, he felt the warmth of support from those who had listened to him. It was a small victory, but it fueled his desire to keep pushing forward. If you've ever felt like your dreams are out of reach, just know you're not alone. Morgan's journey is a reminder that every dreamer faces obstacles, but it's the courage to pursue them that defines us. If you want to follow along on this journey and see what's next for Morgan, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world and helps us share stories that inspire change. With renewed determination, Morgan turned his gaze to the horizon, the last rays of sunlight casting a golden glow over the city. He knew the path ahead would be tough, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of purpose. His dreams of flying were still alive, and he would find a way to make them a reality, one step at a time. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the crowded streets of Chicago, where whispers of war mingled with the laughter of children playing in the park. Morgan Freeman could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him, just as the grease from the engine he had been working on stained his hands. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand and sighed. It was a familiar tune, one of hope and despair intertwined. His heart raced as he recalled Evelyn's words from the night before, her voice ringing in his ears. "You have to enter the contest, Morgan. This is your chance." The contest was not just any contest, it was a beacon of opportunity amidst the storm. The prize was a scholarship to a reputable flight school, a chance to break free from the chains of discrimination and soar into the skies he had longed to conquer. Morgan had spent the night tossing and turning, the prospect of competing against a group of privileged young men swirling in his mind. Would they laugh at him? Would they see him as a threat? The questions haunted him as he lay in bed, the echo of their condescension reverberating through his thoughts. "Stay in your lane, mechanic." With a deep breath, he made his decision. He would enter the contest. He would show them that he was more than just a mechanic, he was a dreamer, a fighter, and he would not be silenced. As the day of the contest approached, Morgan threw himself into building a model aircraft, pouring every ounce of his mechanical prowess into the project. The garage transformed into a sanctuary of sorts, filled with the scent of wood, glue, and determination. He meticulously carved each piece, envisioning the flight of his creation, every curve and wing a testament to his dreams. The model became more than an entry in a contest, it was a symbol of his resilience, a representation of his journey. But outside the sanctuary of his garage, the world was less kind. Morgan faced ridicule at every corner. His peers, those who once shared his dreams, now mocked him, their laughter a sharp reminder of the societal barriers he faced. "What makes you think you can win, Morgan?" one of them taunted, a smirk plastered on his face. You think you can just waltz in and take what's ours? Each taunt stung deeper than the last, yet Morgan found solace in Evelyn's unwavering support. She stood by him, her fierce spirit a source of strength. Don't listen to them, she urged, her eyes blazing with conviction. They don't know what you're capable of. This is your moment. Own it. The day of the contest arrived, and Morgan's heart raced as he approached the airfield. The sounds of engines roaring and laughter filled the air, a stark contrast to the quiet determination that enveloped him. He clutched his model tightly, the weight of his dreams resting in his hands. The sight of the other contestants sent a chill down his spine. They were dressed in polished uniforms, their families cheering them on, a stark reminder of the world he was up against. As the contest commenced, Morgan stood before the judges, his heart pounding. The first contestant took the stage, a confident young man with a cocky grin. Watch and learn, folks, he boasted, effortlessly launching his model into the air. It soared, gliding gracefully as applause erupted around him. Morgan could feel the doubt creeping in, threatening to snuff out the flickering flame of hope within him. One by one, the contestants showcased their aircraft, each more impressive than the last. The laughter and cheers of the crowd intensified, and with each passing moment, Morgan's confidence waned. Finally, it was his turn. He stepped forward, the weight of the world on his shoulders. The judges looked down at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. He could feel the eyes of the privileged young men bore into him, their disdain palpable. Taking a breath, Morgan presented his model. This is not just a plane, he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. This is my dream, built piece by piece, fueled by determination and passion. He carefully launched the model into the air, watching as it caught the wind and soared. But as it glided, an unexpected shift in the wind caused it to falter, spiraling downward in a chaotic tumble. Gasps filled the air, and Morgan's heart sank. He had poured everything into that aircraft, and now, it lay in pieces at his feet. Laughter erupted from the crowd, and Morgan felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. Nice try, mechanic, one of the privileged contestants sneered, his laughter cutting through the air like a knife. Morgan's face burned, anger surging within him. He had fought against the odds, and yet here he was, reduced to a punchline. But just as despair threatened to consume him, he remembered Evelyn's words. He glanced around, taking in the faces of the crowd, some sympathetic, others mocking. He took a deep breath, his heart racing not just with embarrassment, but with a newfound determination. Failure is not the end. This is just the beginning, he declared, surprising even himself. I will not be defined by this moment. I will learn, I will grow, and I will fly. The judges exchanged glances, intrigued by his resilience. The laughter began to fade, replaced by a murmur of respect among some of the crowd. In that moment, Morgan realized the truth. The contest was never just about winning a scholarship, it was about standing up against the tide of prejudice, about showcasing his spirit and tenacity. As the contest drew to a close, Morgan left the stage with his head held high, pride filling his chest. He had not won the scholarship, but he had gained something far more valuable, self-respect in a community that began to see him for who he truly was. Then, as he stepped off the stage, he caught sight of Evelyn, her eyes sparkling with admiration. You are incredible, Morgan, she exclaimed, rushing to his side. You turned that failure into something powerful. You showed them your heart. And in that moment, amidst the echoes of laughter and applause, Morgan understood. He had not flown, but he had learned to rise above the ground, his spirit soaring higher than any model could ever reach. The path ahead was still fraught with challenges, but now he knew he had allies in the fight against inequality. The contest had ignited a fire within him, a passion not just for flying, but for inspiring others like him to chase their dreams. He turned to Evelyn, a smile breaking through the remnants of disappointment. This is just the beginning, he said, determination shining in his eyes. I'm going to keep fighting, not just for me, but for everyone who dreams of flying. As they walked away from the airfield, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a beautiful reminder that even in the darkest moments, the dawn of new possibilities awaited. And as Morgan gazed up at the planes flying overhead, he felt a renewed sense of hope. He would not just learn to fly, he would teach others to rise above the ground, to break the barriers that held them back. The sky was not reserved for the privileged few, it was a vast expanse waiting for dreamers like him to claim their place among the clouds. The journey to the skies had only just begun. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the airfield, Morgan Freeman stood nervously beside his model aircraft. The contest had attracted a crowd, buzzing with excitement and anticipation. Young boys and girls, their eyes wide with awe, watched as aspiring pilots showcased their talents. For Morgan, this was not just a contest, it was a moment that encapsulated years of dreaming, struggling, and persevering against the odds. As his heart raced, he recalled the countless nights spent working on his aircraft in the garage, the smell of wood and glue mingling with the deep-rooted desire to soar. His model was a testament to his tenacity, a small, intricately designed plane that captured the essence of flight. It was more than just a project, it symbolized his journey, his resilience, and, above all, the belief that dreams could be realized regardless of the obstacles in one's path. The judges, a panel of seasoned aviators and community leaders, took their places, their eyes scanning the eager participants. Morgan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as he awaited his turn. The jeers from his peers echoed in his mind, but he pushed them aside. Today was not about them, it was about his journey and the message he hoped to convey. When it was finally his turn, Morgan stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before presenting his model. He explained the intricate design, detailing how he had applied principles of aerodynamics he had studied diligently. With each word, he felt a sense of pride swell within him. The judges listened intently, nodding in appreciation as he shared his story of perseverance and determination. Though the contest was fierce, Morgan's passion and knowledge shone through. He showcased not just a model aircraft, but the spirit of a dreamer who refused to be defined by limitations. When the time came for the judges to announce the winner, Morgan felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had achieved something far greater than a trophy, he had gained respect from those who once doubted him. As the winners were announced, Morgan did not hear his name called. A wave of disappointment washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. The scholarship had been awarded to a talented young pilot from a privileged background, but this did not diminish Morgan's achievement. Instead, he stood tall, knowing he had impressed the judges and earned recognition in the aviation community. In the crowd, he spotted Evelyn, her eyes gleaming with pride. She rushed to him, throwing her arms around him in a warm embrace. "You were amazing, Morgan. You showed them what determination looks like," she exclaimed, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Morgan smiled, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spread through him. "Thank you, Evelyn. I didn't win, but I feel like I've gained so much more." In that moment, he realized that his journey was not solely about becoming a pilot, it was about inspiring others to pursue their dreams, regardless of the challenges they faced. He had a new purpose, to mentor young kids in his neighborhood who shared his passion for aviation, to show them that dreams could be achieved with hard work and resilience, no matter their circumstances. As the sun set behind the airfield, Morgan envisioned a future where he would help lift others up, just as he had lifted himself. He sought out local community centers, eager to share his knowledge and encourage kids to explore the world of aviation. He organized workshops, teaching them about aerodynamics, mechanics, and the joy of flight. The laughter and excitement of the children filled the air, revitalizing Morgan's spirit. Through it all, he became a beacon of hope in his community, proving that the sky was not the limit, it was merely the beginning. Each child he mentored inspired him to dream bigger and reach higher. Morgan understood that by lifting others, he was also elevating himself and creating a legacy that would transcend the barriers of race and class. As the weeks turned into months, Morgan found himself standing at the airfield again, this time not as a contestant, but as a mentor with several bright-eyed students by his side. They watched in awe as planes took off into the vast blue above. Morgan's heart swelled with pride, knowing he was helping these kids chase their dreams just as he had once dreamed of flying. Before long, Morgan's story began to spread throughout the community. Local newspapers featured his workshops, celebrating the mechanic who dared to dream and inspired others to follow. He became a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity, igniting a spark in those who felt trapped by societal barriers. As the video comes to a close, the camera pans up to the sky, where planes soar against the vibrant hues of the setting sun. Morgan stands in the foreground, watching with a hopeful gaze, embodying the spirit of a dreamer who learned to fly without ever leaving the ground. "Remember," he says, turning to the camera, "it's not about where you start, it's about where you want to go. Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams are out of reach. Together, we can break barriers and lift each other up." In this moment, viewers are left with a powerful message of hope and determination. The screen fades to black with the words, "Support local initiatives that promote diversity in STEM and aviation." Share your dreams in the comments, and let's inspire one another to rise above the challenges we face. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories that ignite the spirit of possibility. As the video concludes, Morgan's voice lingers in the air, a reminder to all that the sky is not just for the privileged few, but for anyone brave enough to reach for it.